Greetings, Dominic. Greetings. How are you doing?
I am doing just wonderful. How are
Yeah,
you today?
I'm good. When was the
Good.
last time we was like a couple weeks ago we got together and
It was a week. It's
yeah
been actually a week. It does. It seemed like longer than that, right?
yeah it does. Only been a week.
It's only been a week. 1 week. Absolutely, 1 week. I looked back at our video, and it was only 1 week.
Okay. Well, it was well received. I hope they receive our discussion today.
Okay.
You brought up the topic of doing shadow work, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to look at it from the perspective of spiritual work, which is my expertise, and then the perspective of health and wellness, which is your expertise.
Yes.
All right. So if you all set, we can get started.
Okay. So, thank you for having me on your channel. I am Dominic with Feminine Health and Wellness, and I would like to just welcome my wellness warriors to this topic that we're going to be talking about today.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here with me. Let's just roll the video, and then if you need to stop and give some insight, I think this first video is going to explain what shadow work is and what the shadows are in your spiritual growth. So let's go.
What is shadow work? It is probably the most controversial theme discussed in the psychological circles and all of those deeper into their spiritual work. It is needless to say shadow work can get confusing, and that the term shadow work doesn't bring much clarity. Today I will tell you what shadow work is. Due to the term shadow work, one can easily think it holds all kinds of dark and sinister things. Many of us think it involves dark spiritual practices or maybe a process that involves negative and malevolent aspects of the personality. But this isn't the case. So what exactly is shadow work? We are born whole, but our wholeness is short-lived because we are also relationally dependent as children. It is natural as babies to need others for support. We are born with this dependency into a family that will socialize us into a society that is too young to understand we are at the early stages of development and haven't reached much past the ego.
I just want to interrupt on that point there on how we are born and given a name, identity, a race, and we spend our whole lives defending it. It's always mind blowing to me how we come here and then we're just virtually stamped, and then we spend our whole lives defending whether I'm black or defending I'm a man, and just get into this separation part, which I think is counter to our oneness with all, but part of our journey. So I just want to interrupt and make a note on that really quick on how we are actually stamped with it as soon as we come into this plane of existence.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can imagine this will cause some trouble. They will teach us that some aspects of ourselves are loved and accepted, while others are not. What is acceptable or not acceptable about us really depends on the perspective and mindset of the family we are born into. Our family will judge and reject all of the aspects of us they find unacceptable, whether they are positive or negative, and will encourage those they find acceptable. And with being relationally dependent, in order to survive, we will do whatever we can to deny and disown those aspects in ourselves that were disapproved of, while we will be exaggerating those that were met with approval. So, in order to survive, we tend to dissociate from the parts of us that were disapproved of. This will create a fracture within a psyche, and it is the first coping mechanism we will develop. This fracture is what we today call conscious and the subconscious mind, and is the first self-preservation coping strategy we develop in childhood. Famous revolutionary psychologist Carl Jung, during his studies with Freud, noticed that people had conscious and unconscious aspects of themselves, and that there were certain things a person can be aware of, and then other aspects about themselves they would be completely oblivious to.
Quick note,
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to this one guy speak about the consciousness and the unconsciousness and what we think we are. And he made a statement: do you know what your next thought going to be? You're going to
They,
have one, but do you know what it's going to be?
no,
And
no.
so
Oh, mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, where did that thought come from? I always thought like consciousness doesn't exist in us,
Mm-hmm.
it exists outside of us, and we kind of focus it or localize it in us, but it actually exists outside of us. And so, since we don't even know what our next thoughts are going to be, how can we say we are conscious of ourselves?
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
that's something to think about. I guess I don't know. I guess that is something to think about. But I guess should I ask? So what is shadow work? What is shadow work to you?
well, he's going about a long abstract way of describing it.
Mm-hmm.
But in a nutshell, shadow work is those parts that we deny of ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, it's the parts that we're not dependent on our construct are not very proud of. These are the things that we deny. And like when a lot of most religious teachings think about always being good, but in the context of our journey here on the plane of existence, what is actually good? And I was
Mm-hmm.
using this as an example. If killing is wrong in all instances, just killing is wrong. If you kill someone to defend them from killing someone who can't protect himself, did you actually do something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
So in the context of what the situation is and what the culture calls for, we base right and wrong on that. And then we develop this uh, attitude about what's wrong or what our darker parts are when all of it's us. Like the light
Mm-hmm.
can't exist without the shadow, and the shadow can't exist without the light. And the
Yeah.
integration of both of them is what makes us whole and balanced. Because sometimes you have to do some darker things, and sometimes you do light things, but you want to be balanced in that. You can't just always be light because light casts shadows, as we
Mm-hmm.
know it in the real plane of existence. Um, what do you think about it?
Well, as I was studying Carl Jung, I he had made a statement, and it kind of made me think about shadow work. And he said that shadow work, I'm kind of paraphrasing it. It is the trauma that you have experienced in your life, over time that has caused you to I guess anything that caused you to have an emotion towards, which is your trauma, or a reaction towards someone, or a, what is it, reaction, feeling, um, if that person can get any kind of emotion out of you, it is pretty much linked to your past. Like, say, for instance, if we're having a conversation and you say something to hurt my feelings, it's not what you said to me. It's my emotions behind what you said. So if I'm reacting to it, right, that means it's probably something. It's not the reaction from you, but it's probably the reaction from something that may have happened in my past, maybe in my childhood, early adulthood, or however. And so that is what I understand it to be. Um, are we supposed to have emotions? Yes, but we're not supposed to, what's the word? I guess live in our emotions, or we're not supposed to react to everything.
Well, see, and that's what causes the shadow is the denial of that. Okay, that's what the shadow is, the denial of that. Because just like you're supposed to have trauma, I know
Okay.
that's kind of an odd way to think about it, but just like you're supposed to, like when you burn yourself, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to feel that pain so you remember or you learn from that, right? So when you go
Right.
through traumas, right, you experience them. The problem is that people don't recognize them and they live in those trauma. You're supposed to experience things in life, the good, the bad, the happy and the sad. But to live in there or deny it causes the shadow. When you deny it something, you make it worse. Like let's take a Catholic priest. All right, nature shows that we're supposed to be paired up, but they in religion they decided that ministers can't be or priests can't be married, and so that
Mm-hmm.
energy is redirected into something that's darker that
Okay.
causes the shadow.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So when to me, when you steer away from the natural flow of things and understand that this is part of the journey and you
Mm-hmm.
deny it and you suppress it, that's when it comes into a darker aspect of negativity. Because you're supposed to experience everything. Everything can't be happy, so you're supposed to experience everything. And then you're supposed to integrate that experience in your life journey, not deny it.
So, so you're saying you're supposed to experience everything, but that is experiencing everything without having a reaction to it, correct? When
Well,
you're talking about
you
shadow work.
you know how they say that the reed bends but doesn't break?
Mm-hmm.
You should have a reaction to it because that's the experience of it. If you
Mm-hmm.
deny the reaction, you're not really experiencing it. So that's the experience of it. But then you're supposed to become the observer and then
Mm-hmm.
step back and analyze that experience as you move in your life journey. And when you don't analyze yourself and you don't move in that life journey, that's when you become engrossed in the darker aspect of it. There's
Right.
always going to be balance. The universe exists in balance. There's good and bad. There's
Mm-hmm.
destruction. There's creation. That is the total sum of the universe, right? That's the
Yeah.
motion of the universe. And us as being part of that, we experience that too. But the problem with us that we leave it locked in as opposed to
Yes.
experiencing and letting it flow.
Right. Okay. So I guess for our I guess listeners or whatever, for the people that don't really understand shadow work or know what it is. So for example, so say for instance you came from a family, I guess a somewhat abusive family. So when I learned about shadow work, I was really struggling with it, trying to understand it, and different things like that. Now that I understand it, is not so much about, of course, things happen. Yes, it's trauma. Yes, it's sad. It's not good. But however, when we're going through that, if you came from just hypothetically came from an abusive family, right? So when you are going through that shadow work, right? Um, your reactions towards it or towards other people. If I'm explaining it correctly. So if something triggers you, right?
Right.
If you say something to me that, let's say for instance, I came from I guess a verbally abusive, family.
Right.
And you may have said something that reminded me of something that, my mom said or my dad said, and I
Right.
react towards it. Is that unhealed shadow work, or is that the shadow work itself?
Well, that's the unhealed trauma that results in a shadow.
Correct. Okay.
You see what
All
I'm
right.
saying? So
So
when the
yeah.
unhealed trauma of that situation results in the shadow, and the shadow is the response
Uh-huh.
to when you're triggered by
Okay.
it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So now
Yeah.
when something triggers that and you go off, that's your shadow coming out.
From the past,
Well, from that experience.
from my experience. Correct. From my
Yeah.
past experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my
Yeah.
past experience. So, I just wanted to, I mean, I kind of got clarity of it, but I want some, other people to get a little bit more clarity and understanding of what shadow work is. But I know on my channel, I do talk about mental health and different things like that. And I feel like that mental health, wellness aspect of it is a part of the shadow work
Right.
in order for you to heal from your trauma and past experiences, you must go through the shadow work to in order to grow as a person and to, to be more healthier within yourself, right?
Right.
So I think it is important. So if you've had any kind of, past trauma or something of that nature, you really, really need to dive into it. And I know that's your specialty. How do you, tell your people to face the shadow work?
Well, that is the most difficult part of any journey because it's called a shadow for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? We got a glitchy
Oh,
system here. It's
yeah,
called a
it is.
shadow for, yeah, it's called a shadow for the reason because it's terrifying. That
Okay.
darkness is terrifying. You know what I mean? Because you're asking to really indulge in some things that most people would like to forget, and they wouldn't like to deal with, and they would
Mm-hmm.
bury it. So you don't really approach it from, well, we're gonna do some shadow work, right? I guess you
Mm-hmm.
approach it first by um, myself when I'm working with people is healing trauma and examining, things that trigger you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone did something to you, like say using an incident, the situation you said that you didn't have a good relationship and you were abused in your family, just as hypothetically, and then
Mm-hmm.
something triggers you about that, we have to examine why did it trigger you, and
Mm.
then we work our way backwards to why are you suppressing it
Okay.
and not recognizing your feeling by giving yourself space and approval that you are supposed to feel things.
Mm-hmm.
You are supposed to be, if you're hurt, there's nothing wrong with being saying I'm hurt. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with saying that, that hurt me, or, I'm crying over something. Just like you wouldn't suppress somebody's laughter. You wouldn't say don't laugh. So you shouldn't
Yeah.
say don't cry. But then you have to examine, your reaction to that. And
Okay.
then most people, when you're doing that, you're actually doing shadow work without delving deep into, oh, we're going to do shadow work,
Oh,
right?
okay. So basically, like I guess one step is just not suppressing it, admitting and facing it.
That's the
It
start.
that's a start. Okay. Okay. So facing it and admitting it.
Acknowledging that it's okay
And
for you to feel the way you feel. It is okay for you to feel the way you feel.
okay. Okay. That makes sense. So do you think it's necessarily a time frame?
No, no, the
Okay.
work, the work continues.
I
I
know.
work the work.
You
I
know,
don't
I
have
asked
any. I don't have any good news in spirituality.
you know, I always ask
I
you
don't.
that because we always have our side conversations and
Yeah,
everything about shadow work, and you always say, oh, it could come up even when you think you heal from it,
yeah,
even when
yeah.
you think you've gotten over it, other things coming. So I was
Right.
kind of being facetious, but
Well, I mean,
I want everybody else to know, it's not an overnight process.
we're here to work. That's what we're here to heal, to grow, to learn.
Right.
And people like to take a shortcut and say, "Well, I'm gonna give it over to Jesus, and I'm gonna do this." No, you're here to work, and that's
Okay.
the thing that people don't want to do. They don't want to do the work because it's hard work,
Yeah.
But if you want to grow, you have to actually do the work. It's like you go to the gym. You can't just get a gym membership and send
Hmm.
someone else in there to do the work and then expect to have the results of it. You have to
Okay.
go in there and do the work, and it's tough work if you're trying to get to something. If you're trying to improve yourself, if you're trying to
Yeah.
be a better person, you
Right.
know. I told you earlier that all I see is pain in the world because I just see people hurting people.
Right.
Everyone's hurting each other, but not resolving and working on themselves. Everyone's reacting to everything else. Men mistreating women, people mistreating children, men mistreating each other, but no one wants to do the work on themselves. It's always something external that's the problem, but it's
Okay.
always about you. There's some spiritual belief that says that no one else exists.
Mm.
You are a reflection of me.
Mm.
You actually don't exist. No one on this planet exists except me and you. Everyone is just a reflection of me to learn from,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know?
I see.
So that's a spiritual belief of that in a multi universe that I am the only one here, really. No one else is here. And no matter how real I think you are, you're not real, but you're my work.
Right.
So
Right.
when you look at
So,
life like that, that I don't exist to you, I am just a reflection of you, either to teach and show you something to help you grow,
mm-hmm,
right? Then it's about you. It's always about you, not in an egotistical bad way, but in the
okay.
important way of that I need to do better. And that's what people don't do. They look at everyone else, every situation, and
Mm-hmm.
even if you felt that you were done wrong, you still examine, why do I feel like that? Why do
Okay.
I take it personally? Why am I feeling this way about it? And so when you tell people about the shadow work, it's terrifying, just like the name, because I'm
So,
asking you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay, that's okay. So I just want to kind of break it down. So when you say do the work, do the shadow work, you're saying face that trauma or that abuse head on.
Face the response head on.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
the trauma happened, the trauma's in you, and you're
Yeah.
hanging on to the trauma. Like you talk to somebody and they start talking about a situation and crying, you be like, is it going on now? You know, and they like, no, that happened when I was 5 years old. You know, you're like, wow, wow, we got to really work on that. All right. Because they're not living in a moment. We're here to live right here and now. And most
They're
people that
living.
suffer
Yeah.
trauma are living in the past or in
Right.
the fear of the future. We're supposed to be here. Your root chakra says, I'm present here
Mm-hmm.
and now. All right.
Right.
There's no past, there's no future. But people can't experience now because they're living in the past or they're fearful of the future. Trauma can be in the future too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You're worried about what your job is doing. You're worried about if you're gonna have enough food in one. You have so when you ask why am I responding that way, that's addressing the shadow. It's not that the trauma is not real. See,
Yeah. Absolutely.
the trauma is actually real. It casts a shadow, and that's the
So
shadow. My response to it.
right. So you're living in that 5-year-old self instead
Yeah,
of in the present in the now.
yeah,
And a lot of people, yeah. And I was listening to Carl Jung, and he said something about uh, you are in a. Oh, you're talking about, okay, so you're reacting, just like you was just saying, you're
right,
reacting to something that somebody said,
right,
but that trauma happened to you when you was 6 years old.
right.
That person in front of you has nothing to do with it, and you're only reacting or putting up a guard.
Yeah, whichever your defense mechanism
Right.
is.
Whatever you're
Yeah,
crying, or you're putting up a guard, or you are defensive, or whatever it is that you're putting up to protect yourself or to protect your ego. You Yes, you're living back then. You're not
yeah.
living right now.
And the
You're
trauma
only
is real. We don't want to say the trauma is
no, no,
real.
no. Right,
It
right,
is
right.
real. That happened. That is
Yeah.
real. But we want to examine why you're still carrying it, what was your
Mm-hmm.
response to it, and why are you still there, as
Okay.
opposed to growing and accepting it to a degree, but actually moving past it, flowing
Mm-hmm.
past it. And that's why, it is so hard to just say, oh, we're going to do shadow work. It's kind of misleading because the whole journey, if you think of your journey,
Mm-hmm.
right, it's
Right.
like you're traveling down a golden path and you're in the forest and sometimes you're in the dark. So the whole journey is the examination of the shadow. And shadow work is that part of that whole journey
Mm-hmm.
because you may experience a trauma tomorrow and develop a reaction to it. And that, so you can't say, oh, I did all my shadow work. You can have to do more shadow work. So you don't really just say, I'm doing shadow work. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah, but I get it. But somebody might say, I was hurt, I was did wrong, I was abused, I was
Right,
this, I was that. How
right,
can I forget about that? How can I forgive? Why do I have to be, why do I have to be? It happened to me.
right.
You know, how do you get past that when you're trying to help and spiritually help and heal other people?
Well, because that toxicity, even though it happened to you, you keep poisoning yourself with it. So if
Okay.
something happens to you, you're reacting and then you're applying it to other situations. So you're constantly poisoning, you're constantly drinking from that trauma. So healing
Correct.
it allows you to stop drinking from it and stop responding to it in real time. So how do
Okay.
you get past that? By giving
Yes.
yourself space and acknowledging that yes, it did
Uh-huh.
happen to me and I did feel some way about it, right? But how can I work my way past this? How can
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
bring some learning out of this? And not no negative learning like, I ain't gonna never trust an MF in the world. No, you
Well,
know,
that's being defensive.
that's
That's
not the,
that's not build. I mean,
yeah.
that's not
And you'll
considered.
hear people say that all the time.
Right.
I learned never to trust nobody. I don't
Right.
think that was the lesson. I don't think
I
that was the lesson.
I think when people say that, that is the that is a defense
It
mechanism
is.
for
It is.
the trauma that they are experience or have experienced in the past.
Yeah.
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 I mean, a healing part of it, like I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong. I know I was dead wrong, but I still love. I'm still open. I still share. I don't let
Ugh,
that trauma define me.
oh, that is so hard.
It is.
That is
It
brutal
is. It is.
because it has, I've listened to a lot of people with their hurt and their pain, their childhood experiences and everything, and it makes you cry. It makes you cry, and you like, how, some people like, wow, you're still standing, you're still here. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is a lot, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, I got to brace myself because I'm like, wow, that was some really bad trauma, really bad
Well,
childhood.
like we had a discussion the other day about,
Mhm.
we get to relive our lives sometime through our children and
Right.
say, "Oh, well, I ain't gonna never I'm not gonna ever treat my child like my parent taught me." And and from a result of
Yeah,
that, you see the kind of children we have. Most people can say
exactly.
they spoil their children way too much and they
Hmm.
indulge them way too much. It's because
Yes,
they were trying to not heal themselves,
but overcompensate from the experience
overcompensate,
they
relive
had.
that trauma
Yes,
through their children.
yes,
You see what I'm
yes.
saying? So it's important so you don't hurt people. And if you don't
Right.
do the work, even overindulging a child is eventually going to hurt them.
Hurt them. Right.
Yeah.
Even though if
So
you're not intentionally hurting them, you're thinking that, oh, I lived a terrible life and I don't want my kids to experience that. So you do too much. You
yeah, you
just
do
you
way too much.
way
I think
too
you were
much.
mentioning you tell us again. You told me how about children not being able to develop. What did you call it? We were talking about dexterity.
Okay, so I kind of use an example. And my example was, okay, you have a child. Hi. So you have a child that is, I don't know, 5 years old. And I noticed that the parenting that goes on today is, I guess, soft parenting, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, but however, soft parenting. And so you baby them and you pet them up and you do everything for them. And it surprises me, for people that do know me, know that I do work with children. So it's adults and everybody else. But however, it surprises me when a parent, all of a sudden, this child is in kindergarten, hypothetically, let's say they're in kindergarten, and all of a sudden, by the time they reach the first or second grade, they want them to be fully independent and do everything that they need to do. But last year, you were still carrying them around like a baby. It doesn't, that's not how that works. You have to, it's a process. It's a step by step process of growth and learning with children. So you can't, your expectations of that child should not be from one step. You're babying them, you're carrying them, you're doing this and all this stuff for them, and then next year when you they too big, your expectations are up here, and they should be able to take care of themselves and do this and dress themselves when you've been dressing them for the last 5 years, and you haven't taught them how to dress themselves.
I want to apologize if we're glitchy or something's
Yeah,
going on.
this is
I do
yeah,
not
so that
control.
thing.
Yeah, I do not control the internet. It is what it is. But I think you made a good point that and this is part of your growth journey. When you look at children, they learn dexterity by doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
fail at it and they learn, but they develop those skills.
Yes.
And if you don't give them that opportunity to learn and fail, then they don't pick it up or they don't become stronger in it. If they
Yes.
always carry it around, their legs don't develop. It's just a product of of this plane of existence, that we have to go through things to become better. That we have
Yes.
to do things for our emotional and our spiritual self. And some of these lessons are tough. Some are
Mm-hmm.
brutal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I understand that it is brutal, but you're learning as you grow. And I can't always say what the meaning of it is. I like to think maybe it ain't even for this lifetime. Maybe it's for your next lifetime, because
All right.
you said earlier, well, how do you get people past it? That's
Yes.
something personal to them. You know what I mean? Their
Mm-hmm.
answer is in them. I can't give you that answer. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You have to discover your way through that, because your way is not the same as my way,
Right.
right?
That's true.
But but if your way is negative, then that's not going to help your growth. You're going to keep drinking from that toxicity, that
Mm-hmm.
fear, that
Right.
anger, that
Mm-hmm.
remorseness, as opposed to being able to grow past that. And that's the challenge that we have all the time in dealing with the shadow. So to get back to you said, the shadow work is not a point in time. The shadow is part of the journey,
Okay. Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like they can't really identify the consciousness, your consciousness does not exist here. All right. So the shadow is just not, oh, I'm gonna do all my shadow work and then I'm gonna be good, because the
Right.
shadow work is just part of the whole journey.
Okay. So I think Carl Jung was saying something about um, what was it? Oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought. But he was talking about if you constantly bring up a topic excessively, that you're not healed from it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's
You're
always the reference point. It's
not, mhm.
always the reference point, and you're not healed from it. If
Right.
everything, because what happens is that trauma, that shadow starts
Hmm.
to spread. The trauma's real, but if the
Right.
trauma's not healed, the shadow starts to spread, and it becomes the point of reference for everything in your life.
Okay.
You know what I
So
mean? And then you're
right.
bringing it up over and over again. You can be talking about anything,
Right.
and then people find a way to bring it back to that pain that they had. And even
Hmm.
denying the pain is not healthy. A lot of people don't want to discuss it, and they don't want to think about it. And but
Hmm.
that's not healthy either, because it's just festering there, and it usually just explodes one day, just totally overwhelms you. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
it's a process of knowing that this is a journey,
Hmm.
and that you're growing from this and you're learning from this. No matter how tough it is part of your soul contract, as we like to say. It is the things that you wanted to teach yourself and to grow beyond.
Okay.
You
All
know?
right. So okay. Well,
Do you
that's
want to get back to I'm gonna try to switch us
yeah.
back to the
The
smooth. I'm
video.
gonna see if this works smooth. I'm switching
Okay.
back to the video. There we go.
Okay. Awesome.
Being aware or being conscious of something really means to shed light on that aspect. Consciousness historically has been referred to as the light. So to be able to see something means that this something was illuminated in the light of consciousness. If something is unconscious, we cannot see it. Therefore, we are unaware of it. If something is left in a dark room, we cannot see it due to darkness surrounding it. This is where Carl Jung gave birth to the idea of the term shadow to name all of those aspects of a person. they themselves are unaware of. So, human shadow is any aspect of the self that we are unaware of. The reason why human shadow mostly contains the negative things is due to our tendency to deny and suppress aspects of ourselves we or others found negative. But this doesn't at all mean that shadow consists of negative aspects entirely. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about the human shadow. Although it is more likely we will suppress jealousy rather than a talent we have, shadow is also filled with.
Let me stop. Someone asked a question.
Okay.
So is it not good to bring your experiences up to help others? You just don't talk about it. No, no, you should always share your journey with
Mm-hmm.
others, but you have to be conscious of why you're bringing it up. If you're bringing it up out of fear for somebody in their journey, that could be a negative thing. All right. If you're sharing your journey as a learning point or something to help someone learn or to even show consolid, what's the consolid? I can't think of the word. To show that they're not alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? That you too understand them, Bonnie. Then that can be a good thing. But you have to be conscious of the intention. We always talk about the intention, and I think we were talking about that the other day. That
Right.
we were talking about a lot of the ways that um, women are being accused of dressing in schools,
Mm-hmm.
and and a lot of times people say, well, black women have curvy bodies and they have shapes and they shouldn't deny it. But that's always been true. That's always been true. The intention behind it now is different. You know what I
Right.
mean? And when you put
So,
the intention behind something, you change it.
right.
There's a scientific fact that by observing something, you actually change it. All right. And so
Right.
that's what we say in the spiritual space. If
Just
No, no,
acknowledge
Bonnie,
it.
you're fine. Things are going to keep happening, and
Yeah.
they're going to have a certain effect on you. Hopefully, you have the tools from your past experience that you can help yourself through the next time you encounter something like that.
Right. Um, so we're not going to say that, am I saying that correctly? We're not going to say that you're never going to heal from anything, but just like you're saying that as we live in everyday life and things occur in our life, is other things and other experiences that we're going to be experiencing that's going to cause some type of trauma or sadness or something of that nature,
Or
right?
even, or even just to verify. I know my own experience. Sometimes the universe. I think I'm past a point, and the universe is like, you good, Baba Excel. You don't worked on that. You don't worked on issues with your father. You're good. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I think I'm straight. Look at me. I'm I'm elevating. I'm great, And then the
Mhm.
universe will introduce you to the same situation again
Right.
or something similar to it,
Okay.
something around that way,
Mm-hmm.
like someone to say something, and my mind immediately snaps back to my response, my defensiveness. Then I know I'm not healed. Because sometimes the ego, which is part of the trauma or part of your your
Right.
shadow, your
Mm-hmm.
ego would say, "Yeah, I'm good. This doesn't bother me at all. I'm good. I don't work myself through this. I'm okay." And then something will happen, and then you see yourself responding the same way. That's an indication that you may not have worked it all out.
Right.
You
And
know.
so I think I've learned this, and I've learned this on my journey as well as my health and wellness journey, just trying to heal from my past and just being a better person. That I learned that your experiences that you have can be repeated over and over and over, right? And it could be repeatedly experienced. It may not be with the same person, but with different people.
Right. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I think it's
What
just a
happened?
little delay. I don't know. I think it's a little delay, but I'm here.
Okay.
Can you?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish.
So I was just saying that sometimes when you think that you have healed from something, you will meet someone else and have to re-experience that same situation or issue over and over and over again until you are finally healed from it.
Yeah,
Different
it can
person.
be kind of and that's and to me that is the indication that you are raising your vibration, that you are
Uh-huh.
trying to be your higher version of yourself. It is not the accomplishment of it. It is the journey. It is the catching yourself, the trying, the learning.
Yes.
That's really the indication of your growth. It is not just, oh, you know, I'm free and I'm a better person and I don't have to do no work. That's why I
Hmm.
say it's always about the work. And a lot of people don't really understand that because they think it's just something one and done. And how can you really know that you have overcame that situation or healed from it if it's not reintroduced to you later?
Okay, right,
You know,
right. So do you think it's reintroduced because you haven't healed from it, or is reintroduced to check to see to check yourself and see if you have healed from it?
I think it's a self
Or
check.
maybe a pump. Okay, self
It is
check.
a self check. You know, and I was looking at this guy and they were making this droid to fly around and drop packages and stuff, right? And he said
Hmm.
there's redundant systems in it,
Hmm.
right? That means that if one thing failed, then this thing picks up. If that failed, this failed. We have redundant systems in our spiritual growth. So when we go through things and we think we'll move past them, it'll come back as a check. Did you really move past that? And
Right.
then eventually it's really worked out of you. And then your
Right.
consciousness gets raised, your vibration expands from that, you know? So
So
I like the way the universe is set up. It can be brutal,
right.
and we can perceive it as uncaring, but it really is helping us. I will never believe that all that we go through, all that we experience, is not meant for something. I can't
So
believe that the universe doesn't do things randomly. Everything's a purpose to it. Everything has
yes.
a purpose to it, and so in my belief, the purpose is to our next evolution, our next consciousness. You know, to elevate our consciousness. I will not believe that we just go through things and that's it. That would be
Okay.
useless.
So okay. So would you say if you are you family member, significant other or whatever, do you think that people intentionally do things? Maybe I know some people do intentional things to hurt you or whatever, but do you think that people do intentional things to um, hurt you or aggravate you to a degree, or do you think it's all about how you perceive it?
It's how you let it affect you. People do intentional things. People are
Okay.
conscious of their actions, right? Most of the time, I'm not going to say that that's always have some. There's like if you're driving down the street, right, and you're on an
Hmm.
expressway, and somebody, they see you trying to get on, they would intentionally block you or cut you off. That was an intentional act. But
Right.
sometimes, I remember you don't know who this person is, but their
Right.
actions were intentional. Sometimes
Yeah.
somebody will cut you off and they
Hmm.
just didn't see you. They wasn't paying
Right.
attention. So it was
Yes.
unintentional, but the end result was you cussing them out, following them around, and then getting out the car and beating their A.
Oh my.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Whether it was intentional or unintentional, it's still about you.
Okay. How you perceive it.
Yeah, how you perceive it and what you deal with it. So,
Okay.
most of the time, like I was just driving and I was just thinking like this guy behind me, I was pulling out and he honked his horn. And I said, I'm going to choose to believe that he hit that horn by accident. I know he ain't honking his horn at me. I know he ain't. So I'm going to choose to believe that his hand slipped and he hit that horn by accident. Because if I don't, I'm going to get out here and I'm going to beat him up and down this parking lot. How you accept it. If you choose to say, whatever this person is, they may have to cut you off intentionally, they may have to cut you off purposely. But if you
Yeah.
choose to say, I'm going to believe that they just wasn't being aware and show them grace. It's
Okay.
still about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
still about you. Remember, that person doesn't exist. That's you in that car that just cut yourself off. You see?
Yeah.
And so, how do you respond? How do you act? And so, yeah, do people hurt people intentionally? Yes, they do. Sometimes they hurt them unintentionally, but it's because we're unself-aware. Like when you're on a like when I used to, I'm so used to when I fly. Um, you take the train here in Atlanta. You take the train to your plane, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people have their backpack on,
Uh-huh.
and then they backing all and cheese swirling around because they are not intentional about how
Right.
wide they are now.
Yes.
They're still thinking they're this one person. They like you like, dude, get your bag off me, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
see, because people are not aware of their own selves, and that's why I say the work is always about you. So you
Mm-hmm.
become self-aware of yourself. If everyone became self-aware of themselves and why they responded to certain things and why they did certain things, and they constantly worked on themselves, then to stop pointing the finger, we can actually get more into a oneness with each other,
Mm-hmm.
because that oneness is about yourself. You're the one. People think the oneness is somewhere else. You're the one you're working yourself back to.
Mm-hmm. So, on my channel, I talk about health and wellness and feminine energy and stuff like that. That's why I say that it is, you want to, it is
Oh, I was just
important.
saying, greeting to Miss Goddess. Go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. So, I lost my thought, but
I'm sorry.
okay, that's fine.
Uh, but you were saying about your when you work with feminine health and wellness. Do you
Right.
remember?
So, when I'm, on my channel, I talk about feminine health and wellness. So when I believe, this is just what I believe, when have to talk about women, when you are angry or out of your feminine energy, I really believe that it is a result of some type of trauma or unhealedness in you that caused you to react. And it could be unintentionally towards anything. You know what I mean? It could just be, how they say, oh, we women, we're angry, we're this, we're that. I really believe that it's because of some unhealed trauma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same can be said for men. That's why I don't think your work is just exclusive. I know it's feminine health and wellness,
Hmm.
but men can really benefit from the work you do too,
Yes.
because men actually carry their trauma, in certain parts of their bodies, and it can
Hmm.
affect their relationships. you
Yep.
know it can
Hmm.
affect their physical proudness, or whatever you want to call it, sexually, whatever we can see on this channel. It can
Hmm.
affect their behavior if they're looking at women as just something to conquer.
Hmm.
Like I told you, the guy I'm counseling now, and he only sees women as a tool for him, as a notch on his belt. And then he
Right.
professes that he wants to grow beyond that. That's about the work that you have to do, in yourself.
Right. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to go ahead? We're gonna continue the
Yes, the video.
show, and if you
Yes.
need to jump in, just let me know.
Okay.
With rejected aspects that are truly positive. This is actually mostly true for those who carry shame and struggle with low self-esteem. How can something positive end up in our shadow, suppressed? Let's go by an example. Let's say that a little girl was born with a good sense of self, aware of what she likes and doesn't like, and with a tendency to openly speak her mind. She is honest like most kids are, but let's say she was born into a family where girls should be quiet and obedient. She should be sweet and presentable, but in no way should she assert her opinion if she wishes to be accepted within this family. The family will reject her when she shows assertiveness and confidence. So, for the sake of survival, she will start to reject the same aspect within herself, as this guarantees her the acceptance of her social group. She will suppress that aspect of herself first intentionally in order to receive love, and in her adult life, she will show up as sweet and obedient, probably live life on other people's terms. Her life will be painful because parts of her personality have remained trapped. Her psyche divided and parts of her consciousness are actually not present in her up-to-date life experience. Those aspects of her are now hidden so deeply that they don't even get to experience life. This can impoverish everyday life experience, and depending on the degree of dissociation, this will push her into working on her feelings. After working with her feelings, she might discover that these limitations and conditions for love were in her subconscious and result in her realizing she isn't obedient little girl, rather confident and assertive, just as she once was. Once she embraces and embodies that aspect of herself again, she will awaken the confidence to create a life as she finds good. This will give her the assertiveness she needs to sort herself out, instead of remaining obedient to her family and everyone around her. How does a negative aspect end up in the human shadow? I will give you an example. Let's say you have a child. This child starts getting really angry, and it is born into a family where anger is not an okay emotion to express or even feel. This child gets shamed and punished for the anger, and will then make effort to not show this emotion again. At first, it will be a conscious effort until it becomes so habitual it goes into the subconscious mind. This child will suppress and deny this anger to a point they won't even see the anger in themselves. As an adult, they most likely won't even be aware of their anger and will have trouble saying no. Since he has denied that aspect of himself to show up, he will not be able to look at himself clearly. Might even relate to himself as a completely easygoing person. If others point out his passive aggressiveness or pathological niceness, he might want to work with someone to discover and release any suppressed feelings. As a result, he might become aware of his anger and the way it damaged his relationships. By then facing his anger directly, all of his other coping behavior will stop running his life, and his relationships will now become more meaningful and fun. The important thing to have in mind is that when we suppress a certain aspect of ourselves, it does not disappear, it does not go away with time, it only fades from our awareness. This is why we do so many rash things in life where we don't even understand why we do what we do.
I totally agree. A lot of us are operating subconsciously and not
Mm-hmm.
really understanding why we respond in the way that we do to a lot of things is because of certain parts of our cells we have suppressed, even to the point where we don't even know they're there yet or there anymore. We're just,
Right.
and we actually have made up this narrative about ourselves without really self-examining ourselves, and it would be fine. I talked to someone today about, if they're happy with themselves, then that's fine. That's you, as long as you
Mm-hmm.
understand what you're doing, as opposed to, you not understanding and are unhappy in your actions, then you need to examine yourself and say, why are you doing that? Why are you not happy? A lot of people, you know, I'm not gonna say a lot, but sometimes people realize that they're are sad or they're not content, and it's usually because they're suppressing some part of themselves. I always had this thing about take your shadow self and hug that shit out. Just hug it out. Love that shadow. Love your darkness. Love that negativity. If I'm driving again, sometimes I let people in. Sometimes I cut them off. Sometimes you're not getting in. I'm good with
Right.
all levels of me. There's no malice around it. There's
Mm-hmm.
no anger around it. But I know that sometimes, like if I'm running late or something like that, I may put myself in front of somebody. That's fine too. It's only when you do things excessively and that becomes your whole focus. You
Right.
don't do anything positive ever, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what you need to be aware of. And so, again, the shadow work is continuous, always continuous. Part of the journey is not just, and I don't think even when we listen to Carl Jung, it's not just one part.
Right.
And I think people are misunderstanding that, oh, it's just this part. It is the whole process, it's the shadow journey, it's the shadow work.
So what in the video, what was really kind of sparked my attention when he said that most people that are angry come off, or they say that they're easygoing people.
Yeah.
And that's very surprising to me.
Yeah.
That they would say, "Oh, I'm an easygoing person," but on the flip side of that, they really have suppressed anger within.
Because they're scared to even admit that to themselves. They've been telling them this story that they're long. Like I told you before, like I could speak to, you know, the president of the United States, and I don't know why people can't see the pain that's in him. You
Right.
know, the malice and the
Right.
anger and the violence and all this is from pain.
Right.
You know, mad. How they say, mad at bacon in the morning, just
Right.
mad. Get
So
up
I
mad.
mean, yeah, like we was talking the other day, I feel like something happened because we found out some information about his family was basically immigrants
Yeah.
himself. And so I'm speculating. I don't know. It's not, it's the speculation that he may have had some type of trauma around that immigration process with his parents or something. I don't know,
But
but
you know
it's
what? But
very
that's
obvious.
that is not the only issue. That's one of the most obvious. But mad at everything. Mad at everything. Has to be the attention of everything.
It
That
has to be
shows,
the
yeah,
attention.
you didn't get
Yes,
enough attention as a child. You see
yes.
that?
So
Or the
yeah,
ones that you wanted the attention from didn't give you that
right,
attention. And so now you're in a position, and people are like, well, he's such a powerful man. That doesn't mean you can't rise to power,
right.
but your true self shows,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have to have attention in everything you do, and everything is negative. It's
Right.
never anything positive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's never anything joyful. Even the people that love you, you hate them.
Right.
You know, you
And
try to hurt them. You know, and I don't know why people can't see that. That's just pain. It's just
yes,
pain.
and then, I'm glad you said something about that seeking attention part, because I was, going back to Carl Jung. When I was studying all of his theories, he's made a statement about the social media and people on social media thriving for attention. And he said that on the flip side of that, of course, it is some type of trauma. It is some
Yeah,
kind of trauma that they are with if they're on there, and they get in their feelings because they didn't get any likes. So if they're on there because they're trying to be seen and nobody's seeing them,
right,
or if you're trying to make, or just say you're doing as a personal improvement on yourself, you're going through your journey, and you just say, for instance, oh, you went to school and you did this and you did that, and you want the accolades from other people.
right,
It's an
right,
it's an inside um, trauma within yourself. If you're seeking that validation of good job from somebody else,
right.
so that was very interesting too. And I see a lot of people that are, I mean, that trauma, I guess you would say, is kind of shining through with
Yeah.
just those reactions. And when he mentioned social media, I was like, oh yeah. I
Well, I
see,
mean, it comes from our
see a lot of
society,
that. Hmm.
society intentionally raising other people up,
Hmm.
and you feel like you ignored because this person is living what you think is a fantastic life. They're getting attention. People
Hmm.
are celebrating, and if you don't have that in your own world,
Right.
and they say sometimes mostly actors and entertainers are really the biggest attention seekers.
Hmm. So
I
how would
mean, you would think it's the opposite, but they are talented, but they are
right.
actually they're the ones that suffer from really needing that attention because they go through this withdrawal period when they don't have it. You know?
I mean, do you think that they do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who, if you ask them why do they want to be part of a industry like entertainment, they say to be famous. They want to be famous. They want to be known by people. They want to be seen by people. You know,
Okay.
And so
Mm-hmm.
they pursue that. And then you, as someone else who's lacking maybe that talent,
Mm-hmm.
social media gives you that opportunity. I seen
Right.
people on social media do nothing but eat crab bowls. That's all they doing. Watch me eat a crab bowl. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. You know, see me. You know, and that's all they do. And
Well,
so it's about
yeah,
that. It's just
it was
about
just
this constant attention.
surprising. Right.
Huh?
But it was just surprising to me, when I was listening to his theory and everything, that the social media attention that people thrive is a part of some type of trauma or
Yeah.
unhealed trauma.
Well, don't get everything is everything can be traumatizing in life to somebody.
Yeah,
Trauma
I
is
mean,
part of the process. Trauma is no
mhm,
different from climbing a hill. It is part of your journey. It is part of everyone process. It's how we deal with it, how we cope
mhm,
with it, and how we
right,
address it is the part that we miss. People
right.
live in a trauma. Oh, that triggers me. That ain't nobody problem but yours. Why
Okay.
why don't trigger my
So,
problem?
so let me say this. If Okay, so everybody should be just open and honest about whatever they feel or think or whatever. So if I am saying something to you that hurt your feelings unintentionally, is it my trauma or yours?
If you say something unintentionally, it's my
Yeah,
trauma. Because how would you know?
exactly.
How would you know?
So,
And so it's
right.
my trauma to realize why that hurt my feelings. You
So
know,
a lot of people would say, "Hey, oh, they hurt my feelings. They know they hurt my feelings, and they should know, not to." So that is a self
that is your
trauma
problem.
to
Why
yourself.
your feelings are so easily hurt? What's unresolved in you? You know what I mean? What is going on with you that your feelings are hurt like that? Why can't
Right.
you be the observer and
Hmm.
and people cannot hurt your feelings because you have healed yourself. And whatever that caused that hurt, it's about you. Now, did the person who caused the hurt, who did the trauma, continues to do the trauma? Yeah, until you heal it. Because you the only one have control of that. That other person
Right.
doesn't, you know?
Okay.
And so
Okay.
you must do the work. And so we have a system that rewards attention seeking,
Hmm.
but it doesn't reward healing and growth. You
Right.
know, it rewards all the negativity. You know, you have women or, who want to present themselves a certain way because they want the attention. And that was the
Hmm.
whole thing about the school. What attention do they want? They'll take attention from anybody,
Right.
anything.
Hmm.
People, they say, do everything for the clout now, just to
Right.
go viral, just to be seen, just to be heard, because they have this impression that they're not being heard, which is your throat chakra right away.
Right.
If you
So,
feel like you're not being heard, that's your throat chakra.
right. So it's probably some unresolved healing of what, maybe not attention, getting attention when you was a child, or something of that nature, maybe.
Yeah. And then we get into a deeper thing. It doesn't even have to be in this lifetime. It may be trauma from another lifetime, but we can go into that another day. But let's just
Hmm.
say with this lifetime that you didn't get the attention, or your parent who themselves were hurt, they were already hurt and
Yeah.
they hurt you. And we used the example earlier about sometimes giving children too much can actually hurt them.
Right.
So sometimes parents doing too much can hurt them, hurt you, and then you continue to, instead of resolving it, you continue to either hurt one way or another to kind of
Mhm.
resolve that issue in you, but you're not healing yourself. All you're doing is projecting it into someone else.
Okay. So, what are some of the other steps that you can take? I know it's a process within yourself, but what do you think is some of the other steps that you can take, to start the process of the shadow work and healing
Well,
yourself?
we have the tools. You use herbal teas, and
Yes.
these are energetic because you're energy. These are
Mm-hmm.
energetic um, materials that will
Right.
aid you in that journey, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
use crystals and chakra work to aid people in their journey, right? And the
Right.
way it works is the same way you can take any plant medicine with the right intention. not as
Mhm.
escapism and like, let me get this doobie. Do they still call them doobies? This fat doobie, because I had a hard day,
Right.
and let me escape from reality, or let me
Right.
take this drink. They're actually tools that were planted here and are here that help us in our journey. Like
Mhm.
taking, let's say, nature. Nature's a huge tool. We can just broaden it out. If people don't believe in other kind of holistic medicines, we can broaden it out to nature.
Right.
A walk in the forest is good for what?
Hmm.
Your mental, your
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 mental health.
mental,
Yeah, your
your mental
mental
health.
health.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's, very few
Absolutely.
people would deny that. 20 minutes walking in the woods will calm you down
Mhm.
and
Reset you.
give you clarity.
Yes,
So
it
just
will.
like that's a big tool,
Hmm.
there are smaller tools. You know,
Right. So,
taking some of your teas and
hmm,
being reflective works
yeah,
with those chakras and work with that energy too.
right. So, like with my teas, for me, I have a meditation. If you order teas from me, I have a meditation that goes along with my teas. That is a meditative healing meditation. So, if you've had any kind of trauma in the wound, or in the what root chakra or
Right,
whatever, then you can say that meditation and different things like that. And so just kind of brings you into a positive, state of mind.
right,
And, and so the more positive for me, from what my wellness, journey with my wellness warriors is, the more positive you think and the more reflective you are in, sitting with yourself is a part of healing as well. And so drinking those teas, saying the meditations is going to heal you from any, if you order from me, so it's a in-depth, meditation about healing and wound and care and all of that kind of stuff. It's going to, kind of put you on that healing journey as well.
well, and like you said, are there any tools?
Yes.
Reflective. It's always about an internal examination. But this world
Mhm.
doesn't want that. They want
Mm.
you actually looking out all the time. And in the world, they want you to look outside yourself. They don't want you quiet. They don't want you, people are flipping through,
Mhm.
they constantly searching. That's not going to solve that problem.
Right.
They have 9,000 video channels and nothing to watch, you
Hmm.
know, because people are constantly trying to avoid that deep reflection, that deep shadow, that understanding
Right.
of themselves. To thy own self be true.
Hmm.
They're avoiding that, and this world is helping them be distracted and are actually feeding their lower vibration, which is the most intense energy, with
Hmm.
violence, sex, or any kind of negativity. Kind of feeds your current energy, your lower vibrational energy, and keeps you
Right.
more, in that lower state of energy. Because when you start moving past the heart chakra, you get kind of spacey, and you get kind of distracted. Nothing's important here. It's a time when
Yeah.
I was doing some really deep work that this became so distant from me. But I'm
Right.
supposed to be here now. So I had to center myself back and not do so much higher chakra work. But again,
Yeah.
the tools are available, you know, to help you in this, because you're not left alone to do it. You're part of a holistic system. We're supposed to be more
Yes.
natural, connected to it, the earth, to
Hmm.
all the things that are meant to help us grow here on earth. But again, I told you earlier, everything comes here to die. It's all
Yeah.
corrupted. You know what I mean? They're taking the natural tools and they are corrupting them. They've taken women and the beauty of women and corrupting them. They have taken men's strength and corrupted and made perfect example. Men are made to be strong. But
Right.
when you're toxic with that, that's a corruption
Mhm.
of that strength. So
Right.
everything is about corruption here.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you for me, my channel, I'm pushing towards, when I have this thing about, for some people, they love the noise, they love the commotion, they love the busy, 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 going, doing. and just sitting with yourself in a quiet
Right.
space.
Right.
And it's a lot of people that are not there yet. That is just sitting with yourself quietly, meditating and drinking tea, or just sitting in, sitting in nature, just having a 10, 15 minutes of quietness. No TV, no music, no nothing. It's self-healing all by itself.
I would recommend they get a couple of your teas, go up, take a hike, find a place to sit in the woods, brew them some tea, and sit there and just be quiet.
Yeah.
Just be quiet. And you'll get
Yeah.
so much peace, so
Yes.
much connection,
Mm-hmm.
because the universe doesn't speak in roars and noise, it speaks in silence,
Right.
and you have to accept that and be able to receive that. But this plane of resistance is definitely working hard against that because
Right.
that's
As
where
they,
your power comes from. Your power
right.
comes from your silence, you know,
Right. As
and
they
that's
say,
what they don't want you to
you
be
can't
powerful
hear.
in.
Yeah, you got so much going on. There's so much noise. You can't hear God. You
Yeah,
can't even hear. You can't hear God in nature. You can't hear God. Nothing. It's too
yeah.
much going on. Everything is just it's noisy, noisy, noisy. And I don't know how people do it, but I can't. I
Well,
can't. I got silence at some point in time. Silence. It takes me to a peaceful place.
yeah. Did you want to finish the video or did you want to? Because I had two
Um,
loaded up, but our
yeah,
conversation has been
yeah.
so interesting. If you
I
guys are just
know.
not tuning in, you need to rewind, check it out from the beginning because we hit some real
Let's
gems. As I like to say,
let's
Baba hit another banger, Baba,
let's
another
um
banger.
let's listen to a few more clips of the video, and hey, if y'all have any questions, y'all free to ask.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
This fragmentation is the reason we have no control of ourselves. As adults, we are expected to do better, have a better grip on reality, but instead, we fall into same behaving patterns, self-destructive behaviors, and all because of our shadow. Now, many resist to do shadow work. Some of them think if they allow themselves to feel these difficult emotions that they will end up attracting more of the negative into their life. And some are just afraid, because it takes a lot of courage to come to face the pain of having to split yourself into pieces and lose a piece of yourself for the sake of being loved and accepted. Reality is that the original pain you endured, that feeling of rejection, will come to the surface each time you approach shadow work. The same feeling of rejection you felt your first time with your parents. It will make you feel like you will be punished again. And for those who fear to attract more of the negative if they allow themselves to feel negative emotions, it is understandable. This is a very common confusion amongst the people who exercise the law of attraction consciously, but fearfully, I must add. What we attract is what we unconsciously or consciously believe. To do shadow work is to excavate and finally feel those emotions we have been avoiding for so long, because those suppressed emotions have been the ones attracting painful circumstance in your life just to be seen. This is why you feel like law of assumption or attracting good things into your life doesn't come easy. Our shadow is a point of attraction because the purpose of this life is to become whole again. For this reason, contents of the shadow can emerge through different situations where we will be confronted with those difficult emotions we have been avoiding, or it can emerge in our conscious efforts to do shadow work. These difficult emotions are energies inside our bodies, so confronting them can feel risky. This is why self-awareness is not an easy task. This fragmentation of self is fate of everybody on Earth, as we have all undergone the process of splitting into parts due to socialization. We have split into conscious and subconscious. This is the birth of self-hate that shows up through self-rejection. The emptiness we feel is what is left of us after leaving all of those suppressed aspects of ourselves behind. The fact that we disowned them means we have lost them. This can even feel like we aren't really living our lives. It can make us dissociate from ourselves and stop feeling joy. But the entire universe is on our side and wants us to become whole again. Everything in the world is headed in the direction of expansion and growth, and the split self is seeking to be unified again. During our life, we will be presented with every single opportunity to see and feel into those aspects of ourselves we have suppressed, denied, and disowned. Just like the shadows in our physical life, our shadow self is always chasing us, hungry for us to see it. It doesn't matter how fast or far we can run. Our shadows will chase us until we are willing to do the work that must be done. This is what shadow work really is. It is the process of becoming aware of what you can no longer see. This work has become quite controversial, especially with those in think positive communities. This is why I would like you to watch my video called False versus True Positivity and How to Integrate.
Okay.
Oh, messed that up. Well, did you have any closing remarks?
Well, no, not. I don't have any closing remarks. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
So, it is a part of mental health, and I feel like that you should face your shadow, do the shadow work. What's work towards being healing from all of those traumas that, you know, present, past traumas um, that you are experiencing. It is find yourself, and once you heal from or get in the healing process, I feel like you will begin to know who you really are, and you're not living back when you was a child, 5 year old, 6 year old, however old you were when the traumas began.
Well, I just want to say that if we could understand that shadow work is not just a moment,
Yeah.
it is not something that's just done and one and done and you move on. Shadow work is a continuous process of, I want to say, not only is it horizontal, but it's also vertical.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It's about the future shadows that you come across, and it's
Right.
also about the layering, because
Mm-hmm.
most things are not revealed with the first layer.
Right.
Like a pearl is layered over and over, and you have to keep peeling back the layer until you get to the really core of it and the essence of it. And I
Right.
always say that the work is your work. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, it would be so easy if it was somebody else's work. It would be so easy if it was somebody else's responsibility, but it's
Right.
always your work. But again, there are tools for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You offer
Yeah.
that in your
Absolutely.
energetic herbal teas and moments to reflect and to
Yeah.
examine yourself and feel things welled up. And it's not talking about something, not talking about something I heard. I know when people have a moment and like you've been holding a crystal over your heart, you may feel the tears start to roll down your cheeks because that crystal is an energetic material that's actually
Mm-hmm.
bringing that frequency to heal your heart. And the same
Right.
could be said with tea or with music. It's like saying, when I laugh,
Yes.
when people say, well, those crystals or those teas don't do nothing. Does music have energy? You
Yeah.
can feel the energy in beats. You can feel the
Yeah.
energy in opera music is great for the crown chakra.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel yourself being affected in different ways through music. Same way you can feel it through crystals, you can feel it through energetic herbal teas, you can feel it through colors. Everything's energy. And
Yes.
once if you feel like, well, I can't really tackle it head on, right? Identify where the problem may be and then use a tool to aid you in that um, integrating it.
Yeah.
We
Music.
don't
Music
banish
is
it.
the thing for me. Music works for me.
Yeah, you can
Even
integrate it.
I can be in my quiet space, but then also music is very soothing and healing for me.
Yeah,
So, and whether you people know it or not, music is very healing.
yeah.
Music changes the tone and the expression and the feeling of you. So if you just sit with that thought or sit with that whatever that trauma is and some soothing music, you know.
Even everything is energy, even colors, right? They did
Yeah.
experiment where they painted these gel cells, like I don't know, was it pink or a certain color, and
Hmm.
and violence went down, 50, 60%.
Yeah.
right? Because of the energy actually subdued the place. So
Yeah.
everything is energy. So even if you feel like you can't address your shadow head on, or you don't want to even think about it, right?
Yeah.
You can use tools
Yeah.
that you offer and I offer, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to actually help yourself through that so you can
Yeah.
become your higher version of yourself.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I hope something was gained that aids someone in their journey. As always, I want to thank Dominique of Feminine Health and Wellness for bringing this topic up, and it's going to be on her channel. If you're not subscribed to Dominique's channel, please subscribe, like, and subscribe this video. Go over there and join Dominique's channel. She's going to be aiding women in their feminine journey in so many ways that I think
Yes.
it'd be valuable that you guys go over there and become a subscriber on her channel and check out her videos. She has inspirational messages and other things that are going to aid you in your journey. So definitely do that. But I definitely want to thank you, Dominic, for bringing this up. I want to wish you wellness and love and light in your journey. And thank you again.
All right. Bye for now.